Africa no longer bows to the US. Much of the continent is now economically and politically aligned with the world's fastest emerging superpower, China. The simple answer for why this is because China has pumped huge amounts of money into the continent of Africa. They're buying allies.
I hope what is happening right now in Nigeria, other African countries will follow, Charlie. Because in life, sometimes others have to take the lead for other people to get courage to also stand against unlawful acts. A Chinese supermarket built on Nigerian soil denies entry to Nigerians.
King Nido, here at the Men at Work. Freedom is won by those who dare to resist, not by those who merely weep. For the more you cry, the more your people suffer. Rise up, fight, and claim your liberty. Africa, the continent that has welcomed all civilizations, has a long history of being exploited and abused. From the Arabs to the Portuguese, Dutch, Italians, Germans, French, and English, we have been taken advantage of and mistreated. Even the Indians and Lebanese, who we welcomed with open arms, have abused us. Now, the Chinese are doing the same, treating our children like slaves in their own country. It's time for us to say enough is enough. We must put an end to this cycle of abuse and demand respect, equality, and dignity for all Africans. Look at this video how this monster Chinese man treating such a young man. Let's watch. The exploitation of citizens in their own country is unacceptable and a violation of human rights. It is crucial for governments to protect their citizens from mistreatment and ensure equal opportunities for all, regardless of background or connections. Measures should be taken to hold investors accountable for their actions and provide training and support for officials to address human trafficking and discrimination. Vulnerability to exploitation and slavery can be driven by factors such as migration status, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. Governments should work to provide public awareness campaigns, outreach education, and advocacy to prevent these issues and prosecute those responsible. Let's listen to the story of a young woman who sought better opportunities abroad, only to face mistreatment and realize that the same respect and dignity we offer to foreigners should be afforded to our own citizens. It's time for change and protection of our citizens' rights. Look and listen how this young lady was mistreated by this monsters, the Chinese. Here is the video.
Hello, my name is Nolusendiso. I'm from South Africa. I'm currently based in Shanghai, China, and I work as a kindergarten teacher. On Wednesday, August 23rd, during a disagreement, the HR manager at my job, a guy, punched me on my face. After he punched me and I was screaming, trying to get out of his office, he pushed me down on the couch, telling me that I needed to sit down. I screamed and I was trying to get my phone so I can take pictures and videos of what was happening. Instead, he grabbed my phone and said he didn't have my phone anymore. I don't know how I got out of the office, but somehow I got out, and I was running in the passage of this kindergarten trying to get help. There were various women there. All of them just watched and did nothing. I managed to run to the stairs, but by the time I got to the stairs, he was already there, and he was preventing me from going past them. I was screaming, but he was pulling me, preventing me from leaving. I don't know what came to my head, but I thought about a different exit, and I ran towards the different exit, but he was chasing me. And during the time that he was chasing me, he was singing a song, humming a song, as though to distract me in case so that I can fall and he can catch me. I managed to get out of the building, and there was another lady outside the building shouting for the securities officers to close the gate so I wouldn't get out. But what happened is the security officer made a mistake. Instead of closing the gate, he opened the gate. and then I ran, managing to get out. By the time I got out, I had no shoes on, no socks on. They had taken my phone. I had no bag on. It was just me and nothing on my hands. I didn't know what to do, so I started walking on the streets, and I came across a young Chinese lady. Asked her if she speak English, and she said yes. I asked her to call the cops. She called the cops arrived, and we went back to the kindergarten. When we arrived at the kindergarten, they had gathered everything that belonged to me on the table, telling me that the reason why they were preventing me from leaving is because they wanted me to calm down so they can call the cops to resolve the issue, despite the fact that I wasn't feeling safe, and that is why I wanted to run away.
Africa, my people, let's come together to tackle the pressing issues we face. Ignorance and poverty must be eradicated. Let's put aside politics and criticism for now and focus on the real challenges. Liberty begins in our minds, and we must recognize that our governments and political parties often prioritize their own interests over our well-being. They make deals with oppressors and colonial masters, profiting from our struggles. But we have the power to change this narrative. When citizens are tired of being taken for granted and have no other option but to fight for survival, we must rise up. African leaders, don't pretend you didn't see this coming. You're more concerned with your own stomachs and families than with serving the people. The bad news is that everything is wrong, but the good news is that we can still fix it. Let's unite and work towards a brighter future for Africa. A call to action, urging African leaders to prioritize the well-being of their citizens and work towards positive change. It's a reminder that the power to create a better future lies within the continent and its people. Remember, creating lasting change requires persistence, unity, and a willingness to work together towards a common goal. Let's continue to raise awareness and support efforts that promote progress, understanding, and empowerment for all Africans. Dr. Umar Johnson, tell us your opinion on this.
Chinese just came out last month, one of the top geneticists in China, who now stated that their first ancestor in China was an African, and every Chinese carries the DNA. The East Indians have already done this. Mexicans have done it. So you mean to tell me the people in the diaspora who look the most like the African American, you have nothing to do with Africa genetically. It's ridiculous. But we have to look at the mentality behind that. Nobody wants to be on a losing team.
True.
And until African people start winning globally, nobody wants to be a part of us. This is why you have Spanish-speaking Africans in the Caribbean who will call themselves Latino or Hispanic. They're Africans, but who wants to be part of a losing team? It's just like when you go throughout Africa, it's not, I still run across Africans who will tell you, I'm French, I'm British. You understand? Because nobody wants to be part of a losing team. But the minute African people get our situation back in order, everybody who don't want to be black will proudly return to the race. We have to give them something to be proud of. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said, the white man has made being black a curse. I'm going to make being black a blessing. He said we have to sell being African back to the African.
It's important to acknowledge that the origins of humanity can be traced back to Africa, and many cultures share a common ancestry. Genetic research has shown that humans share a significant amount of DNA, regardless of their geographical location or ethnic background. It's crucial to recognize and respect our shared humanity and treat each other with dignity and compassion, regardless of our differences. Let's work towards promoting inclusive and understanding rather than perpetuating harmful divisions. What is China's true objective in Africa? 2. Is China colonizing Asia and Africa? 3. Why is China keen in developing Africa? 4. What is China's true objective in Africa? 5. Is China helping Africa or exploiting it? Honorable Malema, my question to you is China colonizing Asia and Africa?
China is not going to colonize Africa.
The problem is your corrupt leaders who go to China with empty bags and come back with money. They want money and they negotiate with money in their mind. So go there with proper ideas, not with corrupt mentality. There's no China that wants to colonize anyone. How do you get colonized now when you are the negotiator? South Africa has surrendered a port now in Durban now. That's colonialism, where you just take your port and give it to other people, surrendering your sovereignty, and later you're going to say people have colonized you. When you go to China and say, give us a power station in exchange for OR Tambo Airport, why would they miss that opportunity? It's not them, it's your stupidity as leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Malema from South African. My additional on that is, whenever a bilateral relation is involved, it would never be a one-way action. So here in the China-Africa relation, no matter how keen China is, if African nations have no intention, no interests, no benefits at all, they would not allow China to give grants to Africa. Both sides are not fools. China has its considerations. So do the African nations. So, Dr. Umar Johnson, what are the reasons of this under-outs grants African leaders are receiving from China?
The money that China is giving Africa are not grants. They are loans. You might say, why is China giving Kenya more money than they know Kenya can pay back? You follow me? Mm-hmm. Why are they giving a poor country like Ethiopia more money? Because they don't want you to pay it back. Right. Because when you look at the contract, guess what it says? If you default on this loan,
we keep
all your tea fields are mine. All your copper mines are mine. All your oil reserves are mine. And guess what? You already have an African nation that has defaulted on the loan. As a result of the default, China now owns all of a particular resource in that country. And they in Africa is to take over the resources, just like the white man.
That's a great point. Dr. Umar Johnson, it's important to clarify the nature of China's financial engagements with Africa. While China has indeed provided significant funding to Africa, a substantial portion of this funding comes in the form of loans, not grants. This means that African countries will need to repay these loans, often with interest. It's crucial to recognize that a significant portion of this funding comes in the form of loans rather than grants. This distinction is important, as loans require repayment, often with interest. See how Chinese are planting Chinatowns in most of African countries. Is China buying up parts of Africa? Dr. Umar Johnson, is China buying up parts of Africa? And why thirsty for Africa?
So then when the Chinese start showing up in Africa with these loans, the black man said, well, white man didn't work. Let's work with the yellow man. Now, the reason China is so thirsty for Africa is because whoever controls Africa controls the world. Because most of the minerals necessary for a technologically sophisticated society and for a militaristically dominant society, those minerals come from Africa.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the biggest economy, you got to control the resources of the continent. If you want to be the strongest military, you got to control the resources of the continent. Number one. Number two, I have a surplus of cheap goods. Even though I run the market on cheap goods, I got a surplus of cheap goods. Where can I go and sell these cheap materials and turn a profit? What better place than Africa? And then on top of that, I need some sort of control over the resources of the land in order to make myself a global power. That's Africa. Same thing with the Caribbean islands. All this the Chinese is doing, none of it is being done as a handout. It's all loans with conditions. And the Chinese are creating conditions that they know you can't fulfill because ultimately they want the whole country. Yeah. But here's the issue I got with Jamaica, I got with Africa, I got it with all the black countries when it comes to China. Why are you hiring Chinese engineers to come build your roads, build your buildings, create your infrastructure if you have an engineering program?
Africa has become an important partner for global economic powers, and China is no exception. China's interests in Africa are driven by a range of factors, including natural resources, market access, geopolitical strategy, infrastructure development, and political and economic influence. Africa is rich in natural resources, such as oil, minerals, and metals, which are essential for China's economic growth and development. Africa offers a vast and growing market for Chinese goods and services, which aligns with China's goal of expanding its global trade and economic influence. China seeks to strengthen its diplomatic and strategic partnerships with African countries, which can help counterbalance the influence of other global powers. China is investing heavily in African infrastructure projects, such as roads, railways, ports, and energy systems, to make sure Africa fails to pay back and the takeover. Africa through corrupt leaders. China aims to increase its political and economic influence in Africa, which can help shape the continent's development agenda and promote Chinese interests. So Africans, let's wake up before it's too late. Africans, you should understand China does love you or like you. Only, you have to understand how valuable you are, and that's what China want to steal from you. Look in this video.
They don't know what they're saying.
Yes, you heard that correctly. The kids are saying, in Chinese, I'm a black monster. My IQ is low. This video was released in February 2020 on a Chinese social media account called, get this, Jokes About Black People Club. Within days, it had more than 4,000 likes and a ton of comments. Some people were laughing.
Africa. It's important to recognize your inherent value and worth. While external partners may express interest in your resources and potential, it's crucial to understand that your true strength lies in your unique cultural heritage, rich natural resources, and resilient people. Don't let others define your worth. Embrace your value and negotiate partnerships that respect and honor your autonomy and sovereignty. Africa, let us unite and rise as one. To all Africans, Black Americans, British Africans, Nigerians, and people of African descent worldwide, let us heed the call to invest in our beloved motherland, to cultivate her rich resources, and to harness her boundless potential. Let us work together to build a brighter future, free from exploitation and oppression. We are the guardians of our own destiny, and the time has come to reclaim our heritage and shape our own narrative. Let us join hands and hearts to build a prosperous, peaceful, and proud Africa for all, where our diversity is celebrated and our unity is strengthened. Greetings from all kings and queens. Don't forget to subscribe to the Men at Work YouTube channel and leave your comment, like, and share. Bye.